I thought that you guys might appreciate a little bit more backup of what's happening in Japan, um, and why the Muslims are most likely there, because they don't. I know we talk about them being Durka Durka, but there has to be somebody with a brain because they figured this out. Okay, age demographics. The current population structure approximately in Japan is 11% or 14 and under, 59% between 15 and 64, 20 to 39% are 65 plus. Japan has the oldest population in the world. Median age is 50 years. People 65 plus is 30% of the population. Only 1 in 9 people are children. The big issue that they have is that about their total of 1 out of every 3 people is elderly, and they have a very tiny younger generation. So therefore, their workflow is shrinking. It's exactly the same thing that's happening all over Europe, and why they thought they needed to bring all the people in. And then they have a key driver to low births, 1.2 to 1.2 children per woman. And in order to have stability, they need 2.1 children per woman. So the big picture is simple: too few births, too many deaths, aging population, and a very old population structure. They're losing between 800 and 900,000 people a year. They're burying or burning or whatever. The elderly share a rising. The elderly population is they're expected to hit 35% by 2040. And elderly is anybody over 65. And the simple summary: Japan is shrinking not because the people are leaving, but because they're not having enough children and people are living longer. That results in a rapidly aging, declining population. Why it matters? Well, they're being invaded, as we all know. They're trying to do something about it. It's not working too well for them. And then just a little military note for them. Japan's Navy is a pretty modernized fleet, made up mainly of destroyers, submarines, and a lot of specialized vessels. Uh, it's weird because their two aircraft carriers are light carriers, used to be called anti-submarine destroyers because they had carriers on the deck, so you could have aircraft on the deck. Now that they're turning into a more like the old Imperial Japanese Navy, they're now calling them light aircraft carriers. So this is an idea of the mindset of what they're thinking about with alliances to South Korea, the Philippines, Taiwan, the United States, and then India, Australia, Cambodia. It's unsure if they're even talking to Vietnam or not, but there is a possibility that they will talk to Vietnam because communist or not, they have to be aware that the system, the things are changing in China. So just a little bit more information to give you an idea of what's going on. That's all.
So wait, what's the Muslim angle in Japan? You were also mentioned talking about that.
They're being invaded just the same as Europe.
Isn't the
They
population,
have
Muslim
a.
population in Japan, like very, very, very small?
It's getting small because they're doing something about it. There's been the Japanese don't really talk too much about the problems they have in their country. Okay, they're the type of people that as long as you're quiet on the subway, you're good. You start yelling Allah Akbar on the subway, every one of them is going to turn at you and you're going to be thrown off the train. Okay. It's their culture that's being assaulted. And they're getting the same stuff that they're getting in Europe from the Muslim population that's growing there, Bangladesh population that's going there. So, just an update on what's happening in the rest of the world and maybe why they're thinking that they need to solidify. I also posted a video on the group chat. It's called Japan Working on 5 New Weapons. Most of them are remote control or drone, including they're working on a with the United States. They're working on a missile that there's hope will be able to intercept supersonic missiles coming from China and North Korea, who are currently firing sample missiles, test missiles, over the Japanese islands.
All right, Shauna. I mean, yeah, Shauna.
Yeah, just to add to that, Japan not only has an aging population, they also have an issue with what they desperately do need is a breeding stock. And I know that sounds like a crude way to say it, but the problem that Japan has is that they are functionally an ethno state. I mean, and so bringing new people in is a challenge for them. um Mixed people are very visibly mixed. They're very physically identifiable because they're not Japanese. And they also have some of the same attacks because they're co-aligned with the West. They receive some of the same attacks that the West receives of being colonialism. Now, of course, every nation on earth has some kind of historical colonial tie, whatever. People conquered each other, but they do have an indigenous population. The majority of the Japanese groups are descendants of the male migrations that basically took over and uh, co-populated with native women. Maybe it happened violently, maybe it happened peacefully. Whatever it happened, there's the two native populate. There's a completely indigenous population, and then there's the rest of the Japanese. They are heavily related, but they're not identical. Um, my point is that they are going to receive the same criticism the West does. And they also have this aging population and they need to bring in new people, but that's challenging culturally. So that is one of the factors. Oh, and then the third point that I wanted to make sure I brought up is American expats are going there as well. So there's a lot of American expat families that are starting to live there. Now, the Americans are pretty chill with them because the Americans that go there are assimilating to Japanese culture. But it is a thing that's happening. So just adding to the data.
Okay, and I think it's me, right? Okay, I'll just
Yes, you have to.
Okay, thank you. So just wanted to look at some data, and again, I'm just this is what I'm reading. If it's phrased in a way that you guys don't agree with, just like I'm just looking at the what I'm seeing here. So we have Japan's population in Muslim population in Japan is growing. Japan's Muslim population has roughly doubled in recent years to an estimated 420,000. So that's about 0.3% of the total population. So it's doubled. It's still not 1%, but that's double where it used to be. And over 90% are foreign nationals filling vital roles in industries like manufacturing and construction. Japan also actively promotes Muslim friendly tourism to boost its economy. Oh, I saw that there were some ads in Japan trying to get Muslims to come to Japan, and some Japanese were really angry about those ads. Um, so here, let me read this. I think there are localized cultural frictions, mostly concerning practical issues like establishing Islamic burial grounds. Japan strictly relies on cremation and halal school meals. Recent reports from early June 2026 highlight a noticeable rise in anti-Muslim harassment and abusive calls to local mosques. Researchers emphasize that this anxiety is largely fueled by viral social media rumors and fake news rather than actual daily conflicts. That's what uh, they're saying in Japan. So, and then we have so this is what their media is saying about it. Okay, which is sounds like maybe people who are concerned are being meant to feel like they're bigots or something. That's what it sounds like. But then also regarding the dying population in Japan, um, so the population is shrinking rapidly, and as of June 2026, this is what the numbers are like. So Japan recorded a record low birth, 671,000 births. This is record low compared to roughly 1.58 million deaths. So high living costs, demanding work cultures, and stagnant wages and low migrations makes starting a family starting a family incredibly difficult for young generations. There is a lot of talk where if AI can and robotics can help with this, but some people are saying like it's not going to be fast enough. So there's a lot of talks about like maybe the AI advancements and robotics will be able to help save Japan from this crisis. And also with regards to the military aspect of it, when it comes to Japan, with recent reports like updates that we have from Japan, is that Japan is more and more leaning into relying on an agile group like Squad to coordinate regional defense. So a lot of countries are involved in this, including United States, Australia, and Philippines. So I don't know how to pronounce the prime minister's name. I think Sana Takaichi, is that her name? And just recently, she and the Philippine president had basically Marcos Jr. upgraded their relationship to a comprehensive strategic partnership, heavily integrating their defense forces. Uh, and then during they had recent exercises recently. Japanese missiles were fired from Philippine soil for the first time since World War II, signaling a major strategic shift. So it seems like Philippines is a major part of Japan's uh, defense, strategy, and they're cooperating with them. I remember they're also cooperating with some other countries around the region as well, creating like not like NATO, but more like Squad. But like I think there's a whole bunch of countries that are not cooperating with under Japan's leadership. So that's a big thing. Also, there is a huge talk in Japan regarding their constitution, changing the constitution to allow for a more aggressive military rather than just being defensive. And we have a Japanese defense minister rejected Beijing's accusations of militarism. I mean, the fact that there is an accusation is good. It shows that Japan is actually becoming more aggressive. By the way, Japan came out recently and basically said that if China wants to take over Taiwan, they would respond militarily, which is a big deal that Japan said that. And Japan was also reported to have been disappointed when China attacked Japan in response to that. The United States didn't really come out and say much in defense of Japan. So there was some disappointment in Japan regarding the US's lack of response. So let me see. Japanese defense minister publicly. Yeah, I already read that. Also, here's Japan's pacifist constitution severely restricts its ability to legally bind itself to fight in any other country's war. Major regional powers like India, as well as many of ASEAN nations, refuse to join a rigid anti-China bloc because they want to maintain their massive trade ties with Beijing. So these are all we know about the recent Japan updates when it comes to their military strategy, their migration, and also their aging population. All right, Sketch, you want to go next?
Yes, I would also like to add that that report, even you noticed yourself that they're trying to make the people feel like they're racist about this, about having a doubling in a foreign population that has a very, how shall we say, incongruent culture, right? So they have started to ask for more rights and all this, and I would like to also add that this was a big reason that Takaishi won. This is very political. They have their left and they have their right. They have their version of the Democrats and they have the version of the Republicans. Their version of the Republicans, which is more in line with us and with this Indo Asian alliance against China, they are the ones that are being accused of racism and all this stuff. And their side of the Democrats are the ones that want infinite immigration. So when you look at what's going on in Japan, what they're trying to fight off is trying to become the next UK, right? So that is like, if you look at it numerically, you're like, oh my God, this is an exaggeration. But they know that this is how the door opens, and once it's open, it's hard to close. So they're trying to shut this down now and get away from this culture of infinite immigration, because they know that once these people are in the system and they start to get a right to vote, they'll have an outside population voting as a bloc against what they want to do. And I'm not trying to play favorites here, but Takaishi and her side, the kind of like the more conservative side, seem to be more against Iran, against China, against Russia, against their influence. And they're not, they don't hate each other. Like, they're much closer than we are to China. But and I also mean economically, but they're trying to be defensive about China, and they're trying to be cognizant of this influx population. This is very political in Japan. This is, I would say, one of the main reasons that she won not only her election, but the snap elections. They had a snap election over a lot of their districts, and their district had great gains in all regions. Like, her party, or that side of the aisle, had a lot of great gains in that snap elections, and this immigration thing had a lot to do with it. Also, the Indo-Pacific, Asia Pacific, Indo-Pacific unity against the Chinese fleets. So I would add that there's a political context that gets lost when we look at the pure numbers.
So
Can I just can I just add that on social media, what they're probably referring to is there's social media people like Islamic influencers who are basically complaining that Japan is racist because they don't have halal options. Japan is a pork eating people. That is their primary source of protein, has been for thousands of years. So Muslims can cry or get out.
okay, but that's the same thing about the UK was pork eating before it happened to like, just because you're pork eating, it doesn't mean that that you're not going to have a growing Muslim population. UK was pork eating before they had this. I mean, they're still pork eating. But like, I actually looked this up. The UK was at 0.03% Muslim population at 1951, so 75 years ago, right? So 75 years ago is not that much of that long. So for Japan, like, I think Japan should be concerned, because 75 years is nothing for you to lose an entire country to this level of Muslim takeover. So I'm assuming that it will take much, like in this day and age with the level of migration that we have, for Japan it could take a lot less time than 75 years to get to this level. Yeah. So yeah. Yes, I'm saying exactly, Armin. And it's being removed in the UK. Yeah. All right. So, because guys, here's the thing: once you get just a little bit of a Muslim population there, then the people who benefit, you will have a voting bloc, and whoever benefits from bringing in a voting bloc, that will vote for the people who brought them in, so that they could be more powerful to vote for more of them to come. It becomes a circular, like, it becomes like a self-feeding, politicians voting for more people in to get the votes for to vote in the politicians who would let more people in, right? So you just need to get to, like, I don't know, 1% or whatever, and that ball, like, keeps, that snowball will start rolling like really really fast. So you need to be very careful with that.
My name is Armin Navabi. I'm an Iranian political analyst with decades of experience fighting the Islamic regime inside and outside of Iran. Make sure you follow me for more, and also make sure you join our discussion group. I'm there almost every single day. Come talk to me there and the rest of the people there in our group calls. It's a great place to meet and talk to people who like talking about politics. The link is in the description and or in the bio. You could also get there by scanning the QR code on the screen. See you there.